All right, so I actually wrote myself a note to remember everything I wanted to talk about here. First, I thought I'd give a quick tour of the trailer again in its latest incarnation. I'm actually, I haven't opened a bunch of Christmas gear or anything this year, but I did finally receive some of the stuff I bought, like a proper directional microphone for the GoPro. Remember a YouTuber teasing Brad from Trail Recon about doing a build on a GoPro. But if you've seen people do any kind of video logging, you sort of have to, because the sound is so poor and any of the cases for a GoPro smother its microphone. So I finally got wise. Instead of doing all kinds of audio work post-processing my videos, I finally bought an inexpensive, the same one everyone buys, it's like an Australian thing, a little directional mic that sits on top of the GoPro. And then you have to buy an interface and a cable and learn the difference between how many rings are on your 3.5mm mini plug, but I got all that done, so that's what I'm using right now. I've also been working on the inexpensive editing software I use. It's Magix, I think it is, Vegas Studio. I think I'm version 17. It's got a typical German interface, like impossible to decipher, but it is very powerful and very cheap, and it works well. Our Mac is, I'm a big-time Mac guy, but our Mac is way too old for me to use for video editing. So that's about it for most of the gear stuff. Haven't made a lot of changes since I last made a camping video, just lots of little changes, which I'll probably do next time I set up the trailer. So I'll kind of walk back over here. It's the trailer store. This time I didn't stow all the gear and put it back to a utility trailer. I left it packed because I think we're going to go up to the UP in the freezing weather, and I didn't want to unpack it and repack it. But I just made a few little tweaks on the overall configuration, like hardware, literally little hardware changes that make it go up faster, come down faster. The next thing I'm going to do, the stuff arrives Monday, is a couple of cheap LED lights mounted on the underside of the rooftop tent frame, and with a 12-volt cigarette lighter adapter to my camping battery, so that I won't have to set up lanterns at camp. I can just use the underside of the rooftop tent with some directional LEDs. We'll see how that project goes. I should have that done before we get there. So the only other work I've done recently is here on my Hummer H3. So you can kind of sort of see the aftermath. Definitely not a work of art, but when you drive these trucks, and these are not my normal stock wheels and tires, these are my winter tires, but even with the stock tires, you can see you throw all kinds of debris onto the side of your truck when you drive, and it collects here on this fender, drips down, and causes the rock rail to rust terribly right there. I fixed it once before, but it didn't do a super good job. This time I took out the angle grinder to wire wheel. I did like 2 coats of Por 15, top coat, and then like a peel off paint that looks closer in appearance to the original powder coat finish on that. So I got that done yesterday. Put the traction boards back where they belong. So Sparky has his X-Bull traction boards, which are actually quite a bit better than the ones I have on the Hummer. And I put the Hummer's traction boards back on. Probably did a few other little things, nothing huge. As always, I'm experimenting with different containers and organizational systems. The other thing we did recently was on the 10th of December, I think it was, we did a Toys for Tots giveaway. Now there's 2,500 people in the Illinois Overlanders group, and typically you're lucky to get 10 or 20 to show up for an event. This was our first year doing it, and we had very poor attendance, but still great. A lot of toys collected, and it was a good dry run. But it caused us to have a really good discussion. Which is, I guess I'll put it this way, which is the larger audience? People who want to live vicariously through other people's adventure videos, or people who would like to have adventures of their own but are intimidated and can't get started. So we had a really good discussion about that, and I think the upshot's going to be we're going to try one more of these types of swap meet / charity event get-togethers. Do it at my sister's horse farm, Apple Blossom Trails. It's in northwest Indiana. We're probably going to try and do it again this spring, maybe just before or after our trip to the Ozarks. And we're going to try and we'll show you how to get started overlanding. You don't need expensive gear. Here's how to use the gear you have. And we're going to try and push that theory a little bit in the hope that more people really do want to have overlanding adventures. They're just intimidated from getting started. over the years, I am beginning to suspect, though, that there is a large population of people whose preference is to watch other people overland. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just important for us to know, where do we put our energy. If the majority of people would rather just watch us fly drones or videotape our adventures and share them, then no objection to that. But again, like a lot of my favorite YouTubers, like early on I was watching Lifestyle Overland, and their videos really gave me confidence. I'd been doing this kind of stuff for years, but gave me confidence to maybe have slightly bolder adventures and maybe realize that I could do more with modest investments in gear. So I'd like to think there's more people out there who, like me, even if you'd already done it and know about off-roading, maybe would do more adventures with a little bit of encouragement and reassurance. So we'll see. That's going to be probably coming up this spring. So other than that, I think that's just about everything. One other thing I thought was funny was we've now put undercarriage protection on Sparky and on the Hummer. And when I was doing that bit of rust busting and repair, I found a great big stick wedged above my back axle up in the suspension. So definitely reinforced in my mind the importance of good undercarriage protection when you off-road in a forest. So my next trip to the UP should come right after Christmas if things go according to plan. We're finally going to get our old 1970 Ford 3000 tractor Smurf up onto our land. That'll be fun. Looking forward to that. My sister saved us like over 100 fence posts. I've gotten in an enclosed trailer. I'm going to be taking that up there and use those for corduroy. This last trip, the neighbor said we could use his road and I can then drive down the lakeshore. So hopefully we will be camping on the lakeshore. Although by now the ground is frozen, the lake's probably frozen. It's less difficult, but still it'll be nice to have that set up for spring so we can recreate as well as work. So we're still working out the plots and plans for how to get an enclosed trailer full of fence posts and the tractor on an equipment trailer up to the UP, along with either the Hummer or Sparky, the 4xe Wrangler, along with our M416 trailer. So possibly as many as 3 drivers. We'll see how it goes. And of course I keep checking the weather for that, with again the goal of, for the first time truly in earnest, having a camping trip on our UP acreage actually on the lakeshore. Some of this stuff here in between. I'm going to talk over my own narration here for a moment. This is me kind of talking as I looked around this area when it was still overgrown in early spring. A few trips later and a lot of chainsaw work later, and we essentially established a clearing in this area where, now that the ground is frozen and I won't have to fight the bogs, we can park there. We're also now beginning to make a trail. The point of all this work is to make a trail to the lakeshore. Fortunately, a neighbor has told me we can use his road in the meanwhile, so I can work on the trail from both directions. But I kind of put together a little sort of montage here of different video clips and stills showing the slow transformation of this area from thick overgrown forest and bramble to a few selected clearings and marked trails that will enable us to get to and from the lakeshore without having to rely on our neighbor's road. this on Gaia. There's a bit of chainsaw work to do in here. Damage as few trees as possible. Start cutting up some of this deadfall. And that is actually looking really good. This would be like a perfect campsite. So you just come in one row of trees, make yourself a little aisle.